Well folks, welcome to this edition of Picking Reels. So firstly, I was just going to let you know that one of the previous videos we mentioned that we were going to do a video on the reassembly of the Surfmaster. So the reassembly of the Surfmaster that video is underway, under construction, and it will be out fairly shortly. So that's the Penn Surfmaster, which is like a beach reel. It's quite a massive beach reel actually, it's a really big one. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today, there's a couple of reels going on. We've acquired another Fluga Progress, and one of the reasons I put this in was because this is a copy of the Meiselbach Featherlight, and the Meiselbach Featherlight was a legendary moment in reel making. I mean, this is really one of the grandfathers of the skeleton reel. Beautiful lightweight reels which can dry off the line, and you can see that even after all these years, I mean, this particular reel is probably 1930s, 40s maybe, but even that's 80 years old. You know, look at it, that's absolutely brilliant. It still spins like nobody's business, and you look at the ratchet's still working perfectly. But that is a very, very influential design, and that's one of the reasons I want to show you it, because the next thing I've got in Picking Reels here today is this. Now this is a legend in the fly fishing reel design industry. This is the culmination of a number of things that have come together. Fly fishing was very, very popular in Victorian times, and a number of previous designs of reel had been on the market and reasonably successful, but were failing to address some of the major issues. And so this chap in Manchester called Moscrop invented tons and tons of things, and he held an awful lot of patents. And he invented this, and this is one of the like the Meiselbach Featherlight and the Fluga. This is one of the grandfathers of fly reels. This is like one of the most influential pieces of design work in fly fishing, probably ever. Actually, there may never have been a more groundbreaking moment than this so far in fly fishing reel design. So, from a collector's point of view, this is like really, really important reel to have if you collect fly reels. So, the moscrop is a fascinating piece of work because it is one of the first reels to depart from what's called a plate wind structure, and it has a cage structure like the J.W. Young's reels that we talk about quite a lot in these videos. And it also incorporates a brake, which was pretty unique in those days and may even have been the only one that ever did so. It also incorporates line drying features, which is kind of the precursor to the skeleton, in which you see here look, the little veins to increase the arbor size of the reel inside, which gives you better winding when you've got a fish on. Now the moscrop reel was absolutely fascinating because this particular guy, he had patents for the cross strut rigidity, which is these here. He held a patent for the friction brake, which is this piece just there. Now the friction brake on this reel can be used if you tighten it up. It can almost be stiff enough to actually stop the reel in its tracks completely. You see there, look, it can almost completely stop the reel, so it's very, very powerful. There is a serious design flaw though, and I'll mention that in a minute, but it's one of the very first patents for a friction brake. There is apparently one screw. In fact, I don't actually see any screws on this. When I've taken it apart, I can't see any, so it's been put together extremely well. To put something together without any screws in 1888, that's just incredible. And then they have the air drying vented spool, which I've just mentioned, with wire pillars, and it has a check, which is not in 1888 was possible, not that common, and it has a unique bullet handle. Now the bullet handle, this here, and this is the original bullet handle, and that is a patent that moscrop held, which is why one of the other manufacturers didn't use it, because he held a patent for it. Now this reel comes apart. There's a couple of little pins there. You have to push down, and it comes off pretty easily actually. You can see there, this is the brake, and this is the ratchet, and there's a bit of wear, so it has been dragging on the back plate a little bit because of the wear mainly. This area here, this is essentially where the brake hits the back of the plate. That is otherwise in beautiful condition, is working perfectly, and it's absolutely superb. And as you can see, there are no screws in there. There's no screws whatsoever on this reel. Anyway, absolutely brilliant for 1888. 1888. Think about how old that is. That's 140 years old. A major influential piece of design, and it still works perfectly. Look at that. Absolutely nothing going wrong with that whatsoever. You could still use that today. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So that brings us to the end of the moscrop, which is a very, very influential fishing reel of its day, with several design patents which we still see the effects of now. Very interesting indeed. So I guess we require another couple of Bodex reels. So I'll just show you this one first. This one actually looks a bit paint chippy, and it's the worst, but there isn't a lot of wear on it. If you look at it carefully, it's mostly sort of flaking paint. These reels are pretty solid in the way that they're made, and the latch comes up. You notice how smoothly it lifts off. Well, that's because it's got hardened grease in there. You really should oil this pillar here. You shouldn't really put grease on that. And the ratchet's a little bit slow, and that's because somebody's put probably car grease under the ratchet, I would imagine. But that is otherwise, you know, if that gets cleaned up, that is otherwise a very good reel. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, and the slitter latch works perfectly, and it's got all the parts on it that you should have, and it also hasn't been dropped or damaged in any way. So that's actually a pretty good reel, and that'll come up for sale later on. It's also got its line guide on it. So in contrast, we see this one here, where we've got a slightly poorer quality reel foot. Screws have been chewed up a little bit, and if you look at the line guide, you can see just there's a little bit of wear, and so that is actually completely useless, because there's nothing that you can do with that. Sometimes when you get cage damage, you can make up what's called a bronze filler, and you can fill in the holes with it if they're not too bad. But on a line guide like this, you can't really do that. So that is pretty much goosed. That can't be used for anything really now. Which is a bit of a shame really, but there you go, that's the way it goes. Otherwise this reel does have all the correct parts on it. Now if you examine this, there is actually a hairline crack going straight across the Bakelite there, and it doesn't come up. So I guess we'll just go and have a quick look at it and see if we can work out what's going wrong with it. As you can see from the loose screws, I did loosen this off earlier on just to have a quick look. So what you see there, it is complete. It's got all the correct parts in there, but somebody's made a spring and it's the wrong shape, and it doesn't quite compress properly. So you can actually get this. You can see there, it's not really. It's too tight to compress properly. So if you lift all this out, this drum will come out. We'll maybe just do that now, actually, just to show in the video. There you go. So that's all right. So we'll make a proper spring for that, and this reel probably will just be sold as parts, because you can see how the drum is finding difficulty coming out. One of the reasons for that is that just here, you can just see it there, sort of dink. Now that can be repaired actually. It's not impossible to repair that. The insides of the reel look okay, but it either needs a bit of work or we'll sell it for spares. So just to let you know what happens with these. Okay, so earlier in the video I said to you that the moscrop had a design flaw, and you're probably wondering what that is. Well, it is a pretty major design flaw, because essentially here you have a brake, and the brake is to help you stop fish running. Anyone who's experienced it landing big fish will tell you that can be pretty important. But you need to be able to adjust the brake while the fish is still running. Unfortunately, with a moscrop you can't do that, because you have to work with a preset, because once this spool is spinning when the fish is taking line off, that is moving, and because it's moving you can't adjust it. So you either have to work with a preset, or you have to somehow stop it while you tweak it up a bit. So that is a pretty serious design flaw. So they basically put the brake on a moving part of the reel, so it's not possible to adjust it while you're fishing. Of course, on modern reels, that is the reason why it's on the back. So that's your design flaw. Pretty serious one too, I think, I must admit. But so I'm not sure how well you could use this reel because of that, but it is really still a pretty historic piece of design work. Well, that brings us to the end of the current video. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to check out our store on Odds Ornaments at Etsy.com. Thanks very much, bye.